Have you heard about the word old soul, young soul, master soul? How do you gauge, how do you test and measure who is an advanced soul, old soul, young soul, master soul, or even an advanced human being? Is that a good question for you? Well, there's a lot of people talking about indigo children, crystal children, diamond children, rainbow children, all kinds of nomenclatures about advanced children. But today I'd like to focus on a real formal measurement, validation, who is an advanced human being and who is not. So you can gauge from your own perspective and from the perspective of a lot of your peers, who amongst you are the most advanced and who is not advanced amongst the top leaders that you know around the world. It must be sensational, controversial, or any kind of people say, oh, that's baloney or something. But today I would just give you why I'm qualified to be able to measure or test this advancement or the human development, and from success to fulfillment levels and enlightenment levels. Okay, so let's start. Well, I would go into 3 levels. I would test the external aspect, I would have the internal tests, and the esoteric test. So I would use 3 levels of test. The exoteric part, or the external test, is, you just ask them, what are you going to do in life, or what are you doing in life? Are you serving a big cause? Are you doing a lot of contribution to society? How big is your influence around the world? Or are you serving a great need of humanity today? So the service component is one of the measurement. I always say service is the measurement or the barometer of development. It is also the muscle building of virtues. It is also how you gauge how advanced a person is. The bigger the service, the more advanced their soul. So that is one. How big and how influential are they in terms of service? How extensive and how impactful are their service? Okay. Secondly, I will also listen to their stories in life. Are they emotionally mature when they're telling a story? Are they very emotionally empathic, loving, compassionate? Or if they were not as compassionate, do they have a beautiful mind? Do they have goodwill, good intentions, goodness? Do they have the will to do good? Are they always intentionally in doing great things? So their mind should be measured by their intentions, their motives, and also their brilliance. Now, how big and how impactful are their ideas? Are they brilliant people? Are they able to talk not only about science, but philosophy? Are they able to talk about principles? Are they able to look at alignment in terms of higher development, in terms of mind development? There's 2 kinds of mind. The concrete mind, which is the scientific aspect, logical, sequential. And there's the abstract mind, which is more the principle and the philosophy aspect of thinking. And also the creative, and even the strategic thinking. The other one is more tactical thinking. Now, when a person is very tactical, they delve on the logic, the sequence, the common sense, and the science of things. When a person is more abstract, their minds are more expanded. They deal with philosophy, principles, rules of life, and they have a bigger game plan. All right? So you can hear how they talk, their vision in life, their ambitions, and also their adaptation to new trends in life. Now, another thing is the spiritual intelligence. How advanced is their psychic faculty? Are they able to fathom things that are not normal? Are they more paranormal? Are they more metaphysical? Do they look at things not only in the logical sequence of things, not only on the philosophical thing, but do they see the inner realm of things? The inner aspect, the ESP sometimes, or the clairvoyance of things, or their inner sense. Okay? Now, not all people believe in that. So you would consider maybe intuition. How good is their intuition? How can they see ahead? How can they fathom bigger things through a bigger principle, philosophy, and as an umbrella of truth? So they would measure the wisdom intelligence, okay, and also the intuitional intelligence, the forecasting intelligence. All of these are in the spiritual intelligence category. Of course, you can also measure the IQ or the EQ, or I would say the intelligence, the instinctive intelligence. Like for people who are sports and athletic enthusiasts, you can measure their instinctive and guts intelligence by their reaction to things, their impulse, their ability to respond to things, the right timing and the right situations and the right responses. That's the guts instincts. But if you only look at our traditional education in college, universities, or in the measurement of IQ, there must be a limitation to that because there's so many things that are not logical. There are many things that are not scientific. There are many things that are emotional and intuitive that are not within the purview of science. In fact, when I scan the energy, which I will tell you later on how to scan the energy, of the two highest IQ in the world, we have the Marilyn von Savant, which is like measured at 228 IQ. That's the Guinness Book of Record in 98 or 95. There was a measurement of the highest IQ in the world. That's Marilyn von Savant. But also we have William James Sidis, who is an American whose IQ was beyond the scale. So they suspected it's from 250 to 300 in the IQ tests. But these people are modern geniuses who are measurable in terms of intelligence. But I have met many gurus who did not go to school, but their intelligence is so high that they can instinctively even know what you're thinking. They can guess what you're feeling and so on. So these are the more inner tests of a more advanced soul or a more advanced sage. Okay? So there are ways by which you can measure externally the levels of development of human beings. Okay? Just talking along to somebody with more refinement, a higher culture, more empathy, more compassion. You can see that these people are more advanced than people who are more the savage, the aggressive, the cruel type of humanity, which is like more of the towards the animal gestures. So that's one. So emotionally, you can see how people are gesturing and expressing their emotions and feelings in a more refined state. And not all people are very emotionally sweet, but they are mature. People who are more emotionally sweet sometimes are not always mature. So they can be very sweet and loving, but not emotionally courageous. They don't have the valor. They don't have determination. So they're lacking emotional maturity, which is still part or the higher part of emotional quotient or intelligence. So if you measure between a sweet person and a mature emotional person, you sometimes see that the emotionally mature person has more courage, more daringness, and more focus on achieving great services by using their emotional passion. So you see that there are two parts of emotional intelligence, such as in terms of the mind, there are two kinds of mental intelligence. The concrete mind, which is the scientific mind, and also the abstract mind, which is the principle and philosophical mind. So there's two parts again. Higher mind, lower mind. Now, in terms of instincts, you can also see people who are more advanced. They have the knack of knowing what to do. Their guts are very developed. They just have the sense of doing the right thing at the right time. A lot of entrepreneurs did not go to school. They're not MBAs. Didn't study finance. But their guts are very developed, and they have the killer instincts. If you have a good killer instincts, you have the guts instincts. You are more evolved as an entrepreneur in decision-making and speed of execution and in implementations. That's why a person is more advanced in terms of the instinctive intelligence. So all of these different levels of intelligence, called the 5 levels of intelligence, are all external measurements of what we call advanced soul, old soul, or a master soul, or a more advanced human being. Another measurement which I'm now studying and expressing in my book, Mastering Your Functional Excellence, is the antidote of a mediocre autopilot life and also ailing education today. So you can start to look at how people learn and how they become functionally excellent at the level. There are 7 stages by which a person becomes functionally excellent. The first 2 stages is just learning and realization, awareness, and then stabilizing their skill sets. But most people die only skilled. They do not go into a high level of refinement and stabilization in terms of learning and skill development. That's why people just go to the first level of skill development and curve of excellence. That's why they plateau. When a person plateau, they can start and go dip and go down to the ravine of failure. So that's where a lot of people are. After they learn a little bit, they become skillful, and then they plateau, and they get stuck, and then they dip. And they go away and fade away as experts. You need to go into a higher refinement. You need to go to a higher stabilized intelligence, which will start to reach from 85% to 95%, and then you refine it until the 100%, where the functionally excellent human beings with the right aptitude and skill sets, the masters of their trade and craft, at the same time they have the right attitudes to express that role of being a leader in their industry, a captain of their trade, and so on. So they go to the maximum 100%, called functionally excellent human beings, who are leaders of their kind, and then they become leader of leaders until it becomes a way of life, which is the seventh stage. Well, in my research, there are even beyond excellent performances. Like you go to wisdom, you go to enlightenment and so on, then that is where maximum curve will go to human being before they die, is from functionally excellent human beings into masters and legends and moving from excellence to greatness. So that is my book that's coming. And I have written it because I think humanity should start looking at how not to stop learning, how not to stop unlearning and relearning in your skill sets and your trade and your craft and your education, because there's so many things to learn today that requires more unlearning rather than just learning. There are many things today that you need to digest the essence of your knowledge into wisdom. And from wisdom, you need to bring yourself into a person who can use it for service and go into the enlightenment phase where you become a master, a saint, or even beyond that. Okay? So this external way to measure how advanced a soul, how advanced a human being is very external. You can be talking to the person, you can be looking at the IQ test, you can be feeling the empathy of the person, you can be looking at the refinement and the culture or the more, I would say, upgraded version of themselves and so on. You can be talking in terms of the philosophy, the whys of life, the reason of things, and you can see that they are very deep into their own reasoning. They're very profound in their own answers. They're very experienced in their own skill sets, and they have the right attitude to be able to lead others and be the leader of leaders. Okay, so that is the external component, which I have written in my book, From Success to Fulfillment, the 5 levels of intelligence and the 5 levels of health, where you can see that in the future, you see a more advanced human being by looking at their health. When you don't make mistakes in terms of food, the need to exercise, metabolic rituals, and also the proper use of the mind, the proper expression of emotions, the proper expression of your intuition and your instincts, you become very healthy. So in the future, you can see how advanced a human being is by looking at how healthy they are. Their total health quotient will be a measurement of how advanced human beings in the new humanity coming in. So that's also how I look at human beings. If people make mistakes of having wrong food, wrong diet, wrong decision making, and wrong relationships, and all kinds of bad decision making and blunders and snafu in life, it means to say there are certain intelligence in their life that are not honed yet. That's why they're making mistakes. That's why they don't have discrimination. They don't have discernment. They don't have a high intelligence to decipher what is the right thing to do, not just the correct things to do. So there are many things we can do to measure that. And I have done a lot of those books. In fact, my book, The Inner Powers, just to show you, I've written this book to spell out the 10 psychic powers of human beings who are more advanced. How to advance your higher development and your consciousness by being aware of not only your inner sense, like, you know, your senses like sense of touch, tactile, your auditory, your visual, your smell, your hearing. These are more lateral intelligence based on your senses. When you started to hone your higher senses and expand your higher consciousness, there are many faculties which will open and awaken, such as clairvoyance, the ability to see energy, the clairsentience, the ability to feel energy, clairaudience, the ability to hear vibrations and sounds, inner sounds, and telekinesis, the ability to move energy using your energy field. And you have also the teleportation of consciousness. When you want to get out of body into another dimension, you can also use another faculty. And of course, you can do the channeling and intuitional downloads where you can inspire yourself to download new ideas that are far-fetched and not yet downloaded by books or authors. So you have these many extra sensory perception tools which can make you a higher version of your personality and your ego, and you become not only good in predicting through numbers through the AI. You go to spiritual technology beyond AI, where you can sense the energy of the future, you can read numbers that are appearing in your mind, you can decipher many things, the feelings of other people who are around you and who are very nice, smiling at you and praising you, but internally they are going to sabotage you, they're going to betray you in the long term, and you can feel them. So you can also use your inner sense, you can use your clairvoyance, you can use your inner feelings, you can use your sense. So this is also another measurement by which you can feel people whether they're good or not good. Whether they're brilliant people, when they talk, you're not only looking at their books that they have authored, their billions that they have gathered from their businesses. You can also hear the vibrations of their sound, their energy, and you can feel their feelings. You can feel their empathy towards good causes and things, and you can also feel their bad motives and their bad intentions. So you can also gauge people who are more advanced through their empathy, their compassion, their brilliance of their minds, the brilliance of their idea. You can, as if you can hear the vibrations of their words, whether they are parrot intelligence, where they just quote many books, where they just read books and copy them and spell it out in their podcasts or their lectures. Nothing bad about that. Most people who are brilliant today are people who are overread, overstudied, overheard a lot of their mentors and teachers, and they parrot them. There's nothing wrong with that. The only thing is, there's a time when you start to preach your own gospels, your own lessons, and walk your talk. There's a time that it's your own story, not the story of the President of the United States or Lincoln or Churchill or according to Elon Musk or something else. You will be telling the good stories of your life based on your own story, based on your own principles and philosophies. So you're starting to become advanced, and in your voice is very convincing because it is your own experience. Your own stories are not fabricated out of a blowfish where you want to become big by telling a big story even though it's a small event. All right? So this is something that you need to learn how to palpitate, how to see the energy. And you can learn that from my book if you want, or from my seminars. There are 14 seminars on how to discover the different levels of power in you and how to scale it up and how to score your powers, whether it came from your lineage, your family name, your position, your expertise, your media power, like in online power, social media now, or you can also gauge it according to your magnetism, the power of presence, a power of money, or your own inner powers, which is your own, not given to you by your parents or your business or your wealth. This is beyond the external part. This is internal. So the inner powers are very good to have, not just nice to have, but very good to have. It's excellent if you're able to forecast your future, your trends in your business, what Bitcoin to buy, when to buy, or what kind of investments do you want in 5 years versus 2 years versus 10 years, not only based on the portfolio managers, but based on the inner sense that you have, that some of the logical, correct views of forecasters, financial advisors are not always right. Otherwise, everybody will get so rich if they are all correct. There's a time that you might feel that you are more correct inner sense-wise than when you study intelligently by your AI forecast. So there's a time that the AI was starting to lose its own correctness because the data they're using is starting to have a mixture of fake news, news that are fabricated, news that are not really real and not authentic, or fake news. So the AI will also digest those data mines, which include all the non-authentic ideas and all kinds of garbage. So garbage in, garbage out. So there's a time that there will be more and more fallacy, and there's more panacea in terms of the AI predictions and even the experts' predictions, because less and less does the data of the past justify the future curve. So a lot of the AI, even the self-learning AGIs, are getting the data from the past data. There's a time that the history of the world will not be the same because it has been mined from history written by the victors. The people who won the wars, they wrote their own history, and then that history is not always accurate. So the predictions of AI is based on historical data, which is sometimes are false. So you can imagine all the wars in the Middle East, all the wars that's happening in Ukraine, in all other countries through, say, regime change or through any kind of causes triggered by national interest. Those are things that are not seen in the surface, which the AI also get as a data to digest the predictions in the future. So you can see that there will be a city failure that is happening right now as we speak because the data are not correct all the way. Or not right. May be correct as far as data gathering, but not right as far as justice and fairness according to what is really right. Okay, now, before I go and teach you the notion of the esoteric measurement and test, let me clarify why am I qualified really to be able to talk about these things. Do you think I'm qualified? Let's see. What information did I digest so that I can qualify to measure and test? It takes an intelligent person to understand one. It takes a wise person to understand another wise person. It takes an intuitive to understand intuitive ideas. It takes a more advanced consciousness to be able to trap and x-ray other consciousness. So let me just tell you my story. So just bear with me, because I need to give you an idea why am I qualified to talk about these things. Aside from writing my book, From Success to Fulfillment, where I specified the 5 levels of health to determine your total health quotient, how advanced you are by your health standards, and how healthy you are. Another thing is the 5 levels of intelligence, to be able to measure the different levels of your ascending intelligence, where I discard the instincts, the emotional intelligence, the concrete mental, the abstract mental, the intuition, wisdom, and psychic power, which generates spiritual intelligence, okay? So that 5 levels of intelligence, or there are 7 at least in my level of consciousness. Now, when you talk also about balance in life, which is about your 5 areas of life, that book also mentions about family life, you have health life, you have career life, you have also social life and contribution to society and your spiritual life. So when you look at a more advanced human being, they might excel, they do not excel in one line and fail on the others. That's not advanced yet, it's still an imbalance. So balance is one barometer by which you can gauge how advanced a human soul, by looking on how they look at things, that you cannot become just the best scientist and then fail in the family, fail in your health, fail in your spiritual level, and fail in your social contribution. It has to balance your intelligence, because if your 5 levels of intelligence are honed and awakened, you should not make mistakes of only focusing on career and forgetting about your health and forgetting about your spiritual development. Or if you are totally awakened with the 5 levels of intelligence, you should not just be enlightened spiritually and then become poor financially. Or you can have a very enlightened life but unhealthy, because you did not follow also the laws of good health and nutrition. So when I look at balanced life, I see that that is also a symptom, a signal, or a barometer by which a person has honed and developed the 5 levels of intelligence. Because you can have a good guru who can talk about philosophy based on their religious upbringing and their guru's message to their ashram, but they do not take care of their own health and their own social contribution because they are so focused on their own thing. There are also scientists who are really excellent in terms of their career, and they can talk about the black hole, they can talk about the string theory, they can talk about the quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and so on, but they are not also healthy. You see? So something is missing in terms of advancement. If you're totally advanced, you should see that your 5 levels of intelligence will bring your total health quotient to be higher. Okay? Your physical health, your energy health, your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health should also grow with your 5 levels of intelligence. Another thing is, when I wrote my book, The 8 Types of Leaders, I know also that there are many ways by which people fail and become stuck. So when I wrote this book, just to show you that I have wrote 12 books, and I'm finishing my 13th book, the Functional Excellence book, and I have noticed from my travel around the world, dealing with many cultures, religion, philosophy, from billionaires to beggars and lepers, which I've done my own share of experiment, being a beggar. My mentor told me to be a beggar in India, in Nepal, and everywhere, which I can relate to you later on, who are my mentors, who had helped me, who had parented me to become more advanced and more enlightened in all these topics. That when you classify humanity, because I have really met at least 5 billionaires and healed them and mentored them. And also I've met 2 kings in India whom I've healed. I have met also and healed Andrea Bocelli. I have healed also gurus in India. I have 3 gurus in India that I've healed. I have healed a lot of top leaders of the top 500 corporations, and including the big pharma, the big tech, big finance, and so on. So I have exposed myself, even helping establish 15 nonprofits organization internationally, and I have also the 3 institutes which deals with incurable diseases, and also Wisdom Institute for Leadership and Global Advancement, WILGA, and Be-Life Institute for Higher Consciousness. These are the 3 schools who are now spreading my teachings around the world, and my duty is to go around the world to at least 100 countries and have touched the lives of these billionaires and measure their energy, talk to them, look at their health, look at their lifestyle, look at their not only their attitudes, their skill sets, and so on, their holistic approach to life and their lack of holistic approach to life. And I have started to have a template where I can call the 8 types of leaders, which can also be interpreted as the 8 types of children and the different ways of educating them and parenting them. The 8 types of lovers, the 8 types of buyers and clients, and how to sell to them differently. So this is a thesis and a hypothesis that I have created that really proves its worth by profiling the SWOT analysis of people, leaders, situations, countries, businesses. And this SWOT analysis, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, can be seen through your profile. So by profiling the different kinds of leaders, I know who has a blind spot on emotional, who has a blind spot on instincts, and so on. So these things I have used to profile a lot of businesses, their future expansion, their future relocations, where to relocate, what kind of culture, what kind of profile, matching the profile of their business, their leaders who will man it, and the place. So if there's a mismatch, then even a good business, a good product might not thrive in a certain location because this is not the same match or profile with the product or services or the one who's gonna operate it, okay? So that one is one thing that I can look at. The different levels of development of humanity is not based on one intelligence. For example, who is more advanced, Mother Teresa or Einstein or Moses or Buddha, Jesus, Lao Tzu, Confucius, Zorro, and all the founders of different philosophies and religion? Who is more advanced, Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, or some of the yogis in India? So there must be some esoteric parameter by which you can measure who is more advanced. We can say, oh, because Mother Teresa is loving and Pathing is helping the poor, but Einstein also developed a certain advanced equation and other things that advance humanity in science. Or a lot of the leaders, those like Moses, had advanced the missions of Israelites by passing through the Passover, crossing the desert 40 years, and also become the Messiah of those people through the Passover. So you have also Jesus, who is the Messiah of the world as claimed by Christians, who is an example of the way, the light, and the truth, and nobody goes to the Father without passing through him or something. So we have also Buddha, who is an avatar of wisdom and discrimination and austerity to become enlightened, so on, or detachment. We have many, many avatars of different philosophies, religion, and who are also advanced. So the question now is, who is more advanced? The question is, they were not measured with their IQ. They were not measured with their emotional intelligence. They were not measured by it's just a lot of stories and the scriptures that were looked upon or look at as values contributed to humanity. So you see, so when I look at the esoteric way of measurement, I would say, owed a lot of my skill sets in different levels through my training with my 4 enlightened mentors. One of them is a wandering monk, a Shaolin monk, where I learned the Shaolin style of martial arts, and so Zen, and also the Oriental martial arts of chanting and so on. So this very advanced monk, I have found him in Benares in India when I was delayed 3 times or twice in the plane, and he was delayed 3 times, and on that time that we were able to meet each other in Benares in India, we were able to connect, and then everything is history. So he was the one who taught me the Shaolin way of no-touch combat martial arts, where you don't have to touch somebody to fight. You can stop the fight before you start using energy. You can also use a dense shield with the mantras. We can also do transmutation alchemy using certain mantra and then navel activation, the breathing of the navel, which is like your longevity, chi in your navel, using mantras and using sacred words. So I had studied with this wandering monk who has been enlightened in life. He has, I would say, mastered 7 arts, Oriental arts, including calligraphy, Oriental medicine, Shaolin, Zen, and he's a dancer, he's a musician, and he's also a mantric yogi, the one who's mastered sound and circular sounds. So I studied with him, and he was one of the most difficult teachers of mine because he subjected me to life-threatening situations. He sometimes tell me to be naked in public and true that I'm detached. He sometimes tell me to drink the dirty water in the Ganges River and see if I can use the mantra to transmute the dirtiness in the water. And he tells me to do a lot of weird things, to sit on a poo-poo and meditate and see if I can sense that God is everywhere, including God is in the poo-poo kind of principles, paradigm shift that I had been expanded and blasted in light when I experienced that one. So you can imagine that if you had teachers like that, you don't want to be trained by so-called weird teachers, but I have to master that part in me, which is controlling. Because one of the things I can say that spiritual technology, using my third eye, initiation knowledge and spiritual teachings, is one of the landmark by which people starting to jump from a normal spiritual seeker to a more advanced student, to become an apprentice and to become probationary in the path of enlightenment. That is one thing that I've seen, that once people go to my third eye initiation retreats or classes, either online at first before you go in person, that's the time that I see them jump. Without that, people are just seeking and mystical and flying with their minds into the cloud nine in terms of being spaced out cadets, and they can be feeling good, crying spells because they are blissful and so on. So that is good for a certain level. But if you want to go to the higher power level, if you want to go into that expansion of higher consciousness where you cannot even explain by words, you need to study the third eye system. The third eye is called the spiritual technology with universal secrets revealed in my book. And I'm going to show you just to make sure that you don't say that I'm just talking. This is my book. In fact, the President of India received my book in the palace, the ex-President Patel and the First Gentleman. It was also launched by one of the top philosophers of India, Dr. Karan Singh. He is the Maharaj or King in Kashmir, where I also did some healing on him. And he is a renowned philosopher, a very brilliant personality, and most respected in India in terms of that highly educated scholar. So I'm so glad that he also co-launched this book in New Delhi. So that is the basis by which I can talk about third eye, which is not, by the way, clairvoyance. It's not ESP. This is a little bit more, it's not a little bit, a bigger expansion of consciousness when you have developed the third eye. It is not only a light in your forehead like the third eye in the chakra here, no. It is a protruding light that can be measured how long it is. Will also measure how advanced you are. How big the size of the third eye, the unicorn light, is also an indicament and a measurement of how advanced you are and how powerful you are. So that is like the unicorn light, which is symbolized by the unicorn. The unicorn, like the white horse, the white is the purity of the initiate master, the strength of the horse that serves until they die. They don't stop running if they were serving until they collapse, they die, and they do not stop. And the horn is the unicorn, which is the one that penetrates higher truth, like a telescope that can look at the heavenly knowledge that is hidden to the minds of humanity, that can be punctured through the third eye, like the telescope can, like the Hubble telescope can look at the light of the stars without having to go there. So third eye is one that you can peep in through the heavenly archives where you can see the higher truth, far-fetched future truth that can be downloaded and intuitively realized today. So if you have a third eye, then you can penetrate the truth at a high level and further to the future and bring it today as a download. Not just intuition download. A third eye download is different from intuition or clairvoyance. And this, of course, is like also a microscope where you can also see infinitely small dots of truth and then that long-term far-fetched truth. So you can put like a telescope and also a microscope in one gadget called spiritual technology gadget called the third eye. So once you have a third eye, you will now live a different kind of mastery. You're starting to really go to the path of self-mastery towards a more predictable enlightenment. Unlike being a clairvoyant, you can be a clairvoyant and fail in many areas of life. The third eye does not do that. Once you have a third eye installed and developed, you will start to see a lot of higher discrimination, discernment. You can fathom deep subjects which you have not learned in school. You will be able to see the truth in a higher level of alignment. You can also destroy darkness, the dark entities, the dark elementals in light, and vices, and all the illusions. You can destroy and penetrate them with the light of your third eye, called the light of the unicorn light. You can also preserve which is wise and which is great in your own life, and you can create new things which are far beyond people's normal thinking and correctness. So you can see the past, present, and future, and microcosmically and macrocosmically. So that's how powerful the third eye. That's why it's a spiritual technology that advances you in a quantum leap of consciousness beyond your expectation, beyond your normal curve of just meditating, just being a vegan, just being a nice person, just being empathic. These are not curriculum of enlightenment. These are incidental to the needs to feel good, to meditate, to feel calm, to be fit. You do yoga, to do breathing to make sure that you have more dense energy. These are small subjects. If you go to engineering, you do not study one subject and become an engineer. You have physics, you have differential equation, you have integral calculus, you have chemistry, you have geology. You have so many things. You have even philosophy. To become a mechanical engineer, which I am, Because, see, spiritual technology is close to me, because being a mechanical engineer, I have exposed myself to designs, 5 designs in mechanical engineering. And I've been working with the Arabian American oil companies, so I've been exposed to all kinds of rigor in dealing with the petroleum industry, the chemical aspect, and in the mechanical aspect. So it's a very mechanical and very physical analysis of things, like a science. So I have a scientific mind which calibrates things, which measures things. So until now, I still have that engineering faculty of discernment, discrimination, and I don't usually believe things immediately. I have to measure them. Sometimes I have to prove them. But the only thing is I have esoteric tools like the third eye, clairvoyance, and other inner tools that can measure things, like how to develop a human being and how advanced the soul is. There are certain things that you can measure. That's why I'm telling you my experiences, because combining my engineering training that is very systematized, methodical, and down-to-earth measurement, I use my third eye and my clairvoyance and my advanced inner powers to look at the invisible realm, the inner auric field, which is the template of a human being. There are energetic field in human being that are 3 or 4 layers, depending on your development. And there are centers of energy called the chakras in yoga and healing that are lined from the top of the head down to your perineum and to your back. And more so on your organs. So when we heal, like now I'm revealing you that in my healing expertise for 40 years, that's my life for 40 years, I become a specialist and an expert on energy medicine and energy healing science. So I'm a healing scientist. I'm the chief healing scientist of my World Institute for Incurable Diseases. So I have measured so many people in my life that I can look at somebody and already know a little bit of the measurement without even waving my hand. So that's how I expose myself. How do you measure this energy field without electronics? Without this Killian camera, which is not accurate yet. You can size the chakras of human being, these energy centers, by inches or centimeters. And this is really where I specialize in the healing sciences. When somebody comes to you that's imbalance, you cannot declare imbalance without measurement. By just listening to the person, you know, imbalance is not just about the emotional crisis, and they can be more balanced than somebody with no emotional crisis, because that's just purging. But when you look at their energy centers, since that's my expertise, and I can teach people to do this, in fact, I certify people to be able to specialize on energy medicine on 57 specializations, certified by my institute. So we teach them how to measure and calibrate the centers of energy, which is balanced, imbalanced, which is depleted, which is congested, which is inflamed, which is atrophied, which is really stale and blocked and stuck. So when you know this in the auric field, you can see how the person's so sick or healthy, how advanced their health also, and how bad their health. The basket case of diseases, you can see sometimes through all these centers in the auric field. And this is where we measure how advanced human being by the size of the centers. Since I've measured hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of these already, my hands, my consciousness are now attuned to just palpitate things as I see a human being. You can sense the energy field. And you can use the clairsentient faculty by using your fingers and hands to palpitate this energy field. And so for people who want to learn this one, we teach them how to do this systematically and even scientifically. So when I say I can measure and test and calibrate how advanced a human being is and how advanced a soul or master soul or young soul, we can measure these centers. And usually, when you measure a person with 3 inches, that's a normal human being. The roundness of the heart, for example. So if that is the size of a person, it's called mainstream humanity. Now, when I scan, for example, Albert Einstein before he died, the heart center is quite big also. That's pretty big. That's advanced human being already. Advanced human being should be more than 10 inches in size to around 18 inches. By the time you become a saint, it should be at least 18 inches to 24 inches or bigger, depending on your level of sainthood. You can be a first level saint to the second, middle, third, fourth, and higher sainthood. And then you go to masterhood and so on, or sagehood. So that's one. Now with Mother Teresa, for example, just for the sake, before she died, the heart center is almost the same as Einstein. And you might say, oh, you're biased. No, I'm not biased. I don't really mind who's going to be more advanced or not. It's just Einstein, Mother Teresa, it's not my uncle. So when you measure the heart center of Mother Teresa, it has also a very big expansion, but likewise Einstein. So I think before Einstein died, he started to evolve into a wiser scientist. In fact, his writings are more philosophical at the end, not scientific only. Okay? Like say, okay, let me tune into the ancient past, like Moses, the heart center of Moses at the time, before he died in the wall of Jericho. It's also big. It's a little bigger than Einstein or Mother Teresa. So you see that it's consistent. Now you can measure centers by using these hands to calibrate, the caliper method. I can also scan the money energy of, say, how advanced is the entrepreneurial or the groundedness or the ability to make money of Mother Teresa, for example. So I measure at the base of the spine, the center. Okay, so I'll tune into her, the base of the spine. So it's quite smaller than her heart, almost less than 1/2 the size of the heart. So a person can have a big heart, but financially it's small. Not because she is poor, it's because that's not their mission to make money. That's why they have donations, right? Now with Einstein, the financial potential of Einstein is a little bigger than Mother Teresa. It's almost double than Mother Teresa. Okay? Now let's scan Moses at a time. It's quite big, like triple Mother Teresa. It means to say he has the power to lead physically. He's grounded. He has been walking for 40 years. Imagine that. He has enough exercise. If you think you walk every day, imagine Moses working for so long. He must have mastered the walking exercise. Okay, so you see that Moses is 3 times the Mother Teresa and almost double than Einstein. Well, I can scan Elon Musk or Bill Gates, Warren Buffett or something. If you want to prove, let's say Warren Buffett, is huge. So he's definitely a billionaire because his energy there is quite active, it's hot, there's money, energy, and so on. But you can also scan, how about in 5 years? If you scan a person in 5 years and it disappears, they're dead or they're broke, because that's an indicator of physical existence. If they're alive, they're making money, you can scan that one. If you scan a person who is losing money, they can also see the patterns. Or a person, if you take a partner in business and you scan their base center, in 2 years and it disappears, either they're dead or they're broke. So it will affect you if you were the partner. So that's how I help people with business intuitive mentoring, is when we look at decisions. Your decisions alone is different from when you mix your decision with somebody else. Your good luck and bad luck will mix together. Your bad karma and good karma mix together, it will average your potential or your negative karma if you mix with somebody with negative karma. So it's not just the amount of money they bring in. How much negative karma and bad luck they bring in with the money is another thing you need to think about. So we can scan that one. We can scan also the energetic stamina that is of the navel. This is where people would be measured on how long they live by measuring the energy of the navel, where you can see the lifespan potential. When a person has chronic fatigue, when people already have so much depletion, they didn't sleep well for years, they did not eat well, and they have so much stress and anger and so on, this navel leaks out energy, which is your postnatal chi, or that is your battery that is running your life until you die. When you can generate more energy here, you live longer, given the same genetics. Yeah? So this is one thing that I've seen in the super centenarians I've healed and interviewed in Vilcabamba, Ecuador, where there is a super blue zone, and also Ogimi, Okinawa, and many other places where we have a lot of the long life people who are more than 110-year-olds and still walking and still alive, not by medicine, not by medical surgery. It's because of their lifestyle and their own genetics and also their energy. So when I look at somebody who's more advanced, definitely the navel is more active. Like one of my mentors is the master of this Shaolin monk. He always focuses on his navel every day, breathing and doing mantra for hours and hours, and that's what he does. In Zen, that's what they do also. They focus, they will use their navel like this, mudra, left over right, and they just focus on the navel, and they just focus their mind, their tip of their nose and that, and half closed eyes, focusing, riveting attention to one point. They do not close their eyes like the yogis and Swami's. They have half closed eyes so that their satori, or their enlightenment, is more physical awareness of oneness, being merged with suchness, everything is and nothingness at the same time, with focus on one point, the navel and the tip of the nose, and being aware of their breathing. That's how Zen monks are doing, and that my mentor does that. I did it also, but then I did more advanced techniques afterwards, because that is only one thing that you can increase your inner power to be aware at 360 degrees of the environment, especially when you're fighting. You need to be aware of your back, the side, without having to focus only on one. Okay? So that is one thing that I would like to consider, how to activate your navel every day with this mudra, left over right, and concentrating on your navel, even for 5-10 minutes. If your mind is wandering everywhere like a monkey mind, as they say, you rivet your attention on your tip of the nose, on your breath and the navel, and nothing else, until you master that focusing. When you can do that for 5-10 minutes, your energy increases tremendously, and you increase your lifespan, because that energy is the fuel for longevity. That's why Japanese, when they want to kill themselves to prove to their gang leader, they just put a dagger on their navel to switch off the life force, dissipate, and then they die. They do not do it to the heart. You can still survive to the heart, but that one tends to leak out all the energy that is left in your lifespan. So if you know how to generate energy there and breathing, and plus you do mantra, which is the mantra that will be given to you by your mentor, you will alchemize the energy and make yourself always have staying power. Sleep less, do a lot of stressful situation, you will not run out of energy. You have this continuous, perennial, and always available staying power. That's one thing that I have mastered with my other mentors. So let me tell you again that one of my mentors also is an immortal. They said that he is more than 400 years old. I don't know, I didn't verify, there's no way to verify it. But he is in control with his own body. He's naked always, even in the highland of the Himalayas, around 19,000 feet above sea level. He doesn't wear anything except loincloth. And he doesn't wear any sandal, he's always barefooted. And he doesn't eat anymore. He just drinks water, melt the snow when there's no water. And he hibernates in the caves for around 7 to 8 months when there's snow. There's 30 to 40 feet of snow in the Himalayas, so he uses a snorkel to breathe, and they hibernate inside, meditating like hibernation meditation for many, many months inside the cave. So he's one of those that I've studied, and luckily I was able to copy his techniques that was included also in my book, The Higher Science of Longevity. Let me just show you. See, this book is not about blue zones only, because I've gone to a lot of blue zones in the world, but the super centenarians are more than 110 years old who are still walking, gardening, and I have seen in Ogime, Okinawa, somebody is still bicycling and delivering vegetables to the market. And so this is a very important book for people who want to live longer. And the secrets of the super centenarians, the 7 principles by which they all do, it's not the same food like vegetarian or meatarian, no. They eat different things. But there are 7 things that they do, like say, as a common denominator for all these people in different countries that I have studied that are similar to each other, and then I have revealed it in my book, The 7 F's. Okay, anyway, I'd like to mention to you that for you to increase your instinctive intelligence, to be advanced, to advance your instincts and guts and longevity, the navel energy is one of the solutions for you. So when you have taken so much antibiotics, medication, chemotherapy, and all kinds of things, your guts have become so acidic and it's starting to kill the good bacteria in the navel. So your potential millivolts that's measurable in your navel that measure the antioxidants should be minus 300 millivolts. If you buy water from the market, it's plus 300, 400 instead of negative. So it becomes congesting, and it's not probiotic type. The probiotics usually measure minus 300 millivolts in the potential of the electrons in your navel. So that one is a measurement by which you can also test if you can live longer. How acidic are you, or how non-acidic are you? So we have seen that by doing the navel breathing, not only do you improve your longevity and your perennial power, staying power, you also improve your gut's instincts for decision making. So if you want to become a good executive and entrepreneur, not only do you know the laws of finance, the laws of marketing, the laws of accounting, the laws of growing, branding, marketing, sales, and the e-commerce today, you need to have the good instincts what to do as your best choices all the time. And best choices do not come from just best practices or best options in the market. Sometimes your best choices are not yet fabricated in the marketplace. You have to create your own choices and options to make sure that you are ahead of your competitors, or you're ahead of your game, on the top of your industry. So sometimes your navel will give you the instincts that what is available for your options, especially when you have crisis. It's not enough because your promise is more complex and complicated than what is solvable by the normal best practices. So sometimes I sense that, and I use my instincts to say that, oh, this is not enough sophistication to solve this complexity. So I fabricate my own solutions and I do hybrid integration of many choices until I sense that, this is enough antidote to this complexity or this crisis. So your gut's instincts is so important if you want to become a good entrepreneur. This is the application why inner powers, the third eye, and all this paranormal and metaphysical qualities are very important to your business, to your decision making, to your relationship building, to your lifespan development, and so on. So they are not really away because we are made out of energy. It's about energy. So this is one energy which prolongs your life, improves your God's instincts, and makes you healthier and more alive. When you're more alive, you can sell better. When you're alive, people feel good about you, so your brand expands. Not because of your logo, not because of your product, it's because they feel you as more alive than them, so they would trust somebody who is more alive. They would trust somebody who has more power. They would trust more people who have the power presence. When you talk and speak in public, you need to have the power presence by having a good flowing energy, metabolizing your power of heart, emotions, thoughts, and that's supposed to be reverberating, flowing like a fountain to all people listening to you. And so that power presence, the staying power, including your sexual power, because this affects your sexual power. If you are impotent or if you have infertility, this is one thing that I recommend you to breathe through every day for 10 minutes until you attain that potency, and that adds to your testosterone power and so on, or into your own feminine power. Okay, we'll not talk about that today because that will take us a long time and people might not want to talk about the sexual alchemy today, which I have a book also on that. But in fact, the sexual energy and this one are related. So if you want the energy to be creative and flowing and so on, you need to increase your navel. That will affect your sexual power to increase, so your creativity will increase. I was in Andre Bocelli's house, healing him also and talking to his wife Veronica Verti and eating with them and doing some healing and talking about the energy. And he mentioned to me even that when they were practicing the opera singing and so on, they were practicing how to get it from the solar plexus. See, this is where they get their voice to become very strong. The diaphragm is the one for organ for breathing. So they would try to increase the vibration through their solar plexus, the emotional center. And you can make a person cry. If you're very emotional in singing, you can make people cry by using it from here, or feeling good from the heart. And I told him, Andrea, there's some more powerful thing that you can use your navel or your sex when you're singing so that you will be able to vibrate the charismatic energy or the magnetic energy that comes from the sexual powers, if you still have. So that's why one of the things you can do is to activate the sexual energy through breathing and the navel energy to increase your stamina so that when you sing, you do not sing only from the emotional, from the heart, or from the throat. You have to sing from the source of fire. The source of magnetism and charisma is that. It's not the emotions. Well, this is emotion charisma, but that is more of the magnetism that comes out of your heart, out of your throat, out of your mind when you talk, when you speak, when you sing. And that is the one that people feel and receive from their auric field. So that is why I was mentioning to him that there are mantras like Om or the equivalent of Amen in Christianity. And he said, oh, we also study that kind of thing. So I even left my chantram. I recorded a mantric yoga with different mantras to him and say, okay, let me see if you need this or not, you need it. So it depends. I did not follow up if he used it or not, but I recorded many chants and mantra that makes your energy vibrate, including the vibration of that inner power and sexual power, to be able to bring that power internally and to externalize it as your auric expansion and fertilizing your power in your heart, your mind, your soul, your creativity, your emotions, your sexuality, and so on. You can make that as a tool for you to increase your charisma also. All right? So let's leave that topic now. But so I have studied this also with that Shaolin monk, but more on the Sanskrit mantras and his Oriental mantras. So I have mastered a certain level of mantric yoga because he did chant with me all the way every day for weeks and weeks, and a lot of focusing only on the navel. And so I started to develop the navel like a booster, a turbo, and an energy field which just it sustains your energy all the time. I don't have problem sleeping only 1 hour, 2 hours, and still act normally and flow the energy, because this energy is really like a fountain of youth. I call the elixir of youth. Is not just a sex or herbal remedy. It's that energy which is called the elixir of life. That's why most immortals, like my other mentor was an immortal, is always doing that every day, breathing for hours and hours and that. My Shaolin monk is always doing it every day. My other teachers, I have 2 more teachers which had parented me into this realm of spirituality. One of my mentors is a psychic master from the Philippines who have mastered clairvoyance, clairaudience, all things about psychism. He also mastered the third eye mechanism and how to construct it through tools. And he also is a master of esoteric psychology. But he is unable to talk because he had a stroke earlier when he was younger. So he's paralyzed for life. He was very heavy. At the same time, he has to train me to telepathically connect to his teachings because he cannot talk. He can type in the computer like this, but more comments only, short comments. So I was able to study with him and had really thank him for giving me and pass on the baton of these inner powers without talking to me, but tuning in. So I was forced to tune into him to study because he doesn't talk. But I was able to teach some of his workshops, his seminars to the public after he gave me some empowerment to be able to teach many things in psychism. And so I even authored this book, as you said, as you've seen, which are the 10 psychic powers of advanced humanity to be developed, including our children today. Mark my word, a lot of these powers will be seen more in our children. A lot of advanced children are being born now. I can measure the chakras, I can measure their energy. I know when a child is born if they are advanced or normal. Okay? It's not about the indigo color of the aura, it's not the crystal color. That there are 8 types of advanced children and they have different colors of aura. Some are blue, some are indigo, some are orange, some are red, some are saffron. There are many colors for different advanced souls. It's not one color. You have to remember that. So just to make sure that we understand each other, not only the color of the aura. And the aura, by the way, is always changing. It's not fixed. When you're doing some things, when you're exercising, when you're having romance, it becomes pink and red, hot. When you are calm and peaceful and doing mantras of peace, you become bluish violet. When you're meditating, spirituality, activation, you are more violet and gold and pink. And when you're more power, it's more orange and red. When you're more thinking, you're more green and yellow aura. So different auras of colors depend on your 8 classifications of human design and your 7 types of souls, and also what are you doing when you are being read clairvoyantly. So you cannot just say, I'm only green because somebody told me I'm green. That is for that day and that moment, it always changes, okay? So just to clarify that, just to debunk that myth of that one aura has one color for everyone, for different people not fixed. Okay, so when you started to develop this different, they call it CD in India, powers, faculties, magical powers, you belong to the 8 types of category, which the 8 is the integrated synthesis of powers, okay? The power of the mind, power of emotions, power of will, power of science, power of this, power of that. So there's a lot of things that are according to the 8 types of classification. So when I look at people's development, I cannot be biased by favoring Einstein because he is very brilliant, and Mother Teresa because he is very emotional and more loving, and Moses because he is powerful, so on. I have to look at these energy centers because one of my mentor, who is a grandmaster of healing, and also a business person, had also indicated the ability to use the Qigong techniques to be able to measure the energy or palpitate energy. So I was able to improve that science by measuring not only the prana, but you can measure the emotional energy and the mental energy, and even the soul energy. So all of these centers of energy are not only 7. Most people talk about 7 chakras or 7 centers. That is only what they taught you in India, in yogas and in meditation, or the gurus. They only know the 7 chakras. There are many hidden chakras, such as your forehead. You have also the spleen on the left side of the stomach. You have also the base of the spine, not just the front of the sex. You have also the back of the navel. And there are also many more at the soul level and below the lower soul correspondences. So do not just be deceived that there's only 7. There are more chakras, and if you don't, for example, heal the forehead, this is where Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, senile decay, memory loss, even menopausal women, this is where it falters, or this is where it becomes imbalanced. So if you're healing menopause, or you're healing bipolarity, or depression, or schizophrenia, all things, and you do not include this energy here, you're not going to heal totally the patient, because this is the most damaged chakra when it comes to that kind of disorder or disorders. Okay? Now, if you're healing hypertension, for example, if you're healing adrenal fatigue, if you're healing people with low blood pressure, or supersexuality or hypersexuality also, it is about the back of the navel, which controls the adrenals, the kidneys, and your blood pressure. So if you do not heal that because it's not in the checklist of the chakras, then you're not going to heal the person totally. Okay? Now, if a person have COVID, the person has devitalization and accelerated aging, the person has thalassemia major, the person has lupus, the person has autoimmune disorder, the spleen center has to be included. And if you don't have the spleen chakra because you only have the 7, then you're not going to heal totally those autoimmune disorders, including COVID and many of the devitalization and fatigue of the human being. So we need to include that. So if you look why I have mastered looking at how advanced a human being, I was already exposed in measurements. That's my job every day. When I get you as a client, for example, and you come for your imbalances, you're stuck with finance, you're stuck in your marriage, or you're losing yourself because you don't find any more meaning in what you're doing. I will look if your depression is caused by physical depression, psychological depression, or what we call the dark night of the soul. There's a time that you plateau in your own development and you are going to dip curve to the ravine of change. Either you disrupt your curve to go up again and reinvent yourself and get another purpose set in motion, or you drop and becomes wasted in this life as a victim of what we call the dark night of the soul. This syndrome, because there's many kinds of symptoms all in one, it's a basket of symptoms. It's not easy to heal. It's an incurable disease, and it's not yet in the manual of the psychiatry and psychology of this DSM-5, because it is not classified because nobody is paying attention. Everybody is classifying everyone into depression, anxiety, and PTSD, and burnout, and so on. But these are exempted because these are more advanced symptoms, which is imposed by the soul when you're already stuck, when you are declining in your life, when you're wasting your life anymore. It does give you that impulse by which you're starting to feel that you have lost it. You have already declined in your health, your mind, emotions are like going to collapse. You feel like you're dying without physical death. It's like the candle is like melting. And I've been healing a lot of these people, including I have healed gurus and saints in India in a way, because I have these symptoms in them and they don't know how to feel good anymore, even though the yoga and breathing and they do the chant. It's not working anymore. And they said that they don't have the same experience as before because they feel like they are withering out, fading away. So I've healed a few gurus with that symptom, and even a women saint in India and in different parts of the Himalayas. I have met them and I saw that they are into the dark night of the soul. Even Mother Teresa has said that he is losing the love of Christ and the love of God that he used to feel, and she was confiding. She did confide to her friar, mentors, priest, but they just say that keep on praying. But the more you pray, the more you feel the sensitivity of losing it. You become more sensitive when you pray or meditate. So if you meditate more, the more you feel depressed in the sense of spiritual apathy, because that is where the soul wants you to feel that you are fading away. So you have to search for meaning, search for significance by reinventing yourself, by finding a new purpose in your life that is bigger than what you've achieved. Then you disrupt the curve. And many people die without solving it. I think even Mother Teresa died without solving it, according to her mentor, that she just felt the same until she died. And another thing is, even St. Francis of Assisi, for those who are Christians, in Laverna, I went to Laverna in Italy and found that there's a section where the monastery of St. Francis have these roses, and they call it the roses of St. Francis, where he tried to roll and roll and roll because he's starting to be feeling numb and feeling like he's fading away. To feel the pain, the thorns has to come into his body and skin to feel awakened and feel like normal. Because you tend to become abnormal when you go to the stage, as if you're losing yourself. You're losing your mind, as if you are so in a weird, absurd, and a weird position of not feeling any more significance, or you lose your meaning. You collapse your meaning and so on. So that's called the dark night. In fact, that's one of my specialty. When I look at more advanced souls, sometimes I feel that they are not really depressed. They are having a dark night of the soul syndrome. This is the book that I have written, and I have put here a lot of my healing experiences with so many people around the world, and they have put their own testimonials on how they felt different after a few weeks and months of being in a healing session called the Heal Plan. Heal every aspect of life, Heal Plan, which is one of my services to humanity, to deal with incurable diseases or diseases that are not responding to medication or surgery or any other modality of healing. They come to me as a final option. And we look at the whole situation. We scan all their centers. We look at their soul energy and their meaning or no meaning, and if they have been saturated already in a plateau and deep curve. So you can see that some of the diseases are not always born of chemicals or microorganisms or acidity or bad food or fast food or genetics. There are exceptions to the rules, because as you evolve, diseases are not always connected not to medical causes like microorganisms. They're connected to karma, or your past lives, or your past ancient lives, which is bringing now a lot of predicaments and distressful situations, because these are now to be cleansed. When you reach your apex of development from your past lives, the soul will bring now new ways to clean, because now you're prepared to unfold the new consciousness, which brings the new work to clean and purge the old stuff. So that by the time you clean it, you go to a high level of development and expand your consciousness to a level by which you said, okay, I'm being born again. That's why there's born again Christians. There's the word I'm reborn or reborn to a new life, new way. Like the St. Francis of Assisi, it's in dying that you're born of eternal life. It's like in dying your old ego and your old self that you're born to a new life form or life consciousness. So these things are very real, because I see this every week in my own healing practice. As a healing scientist, I have designed a heal plan that deals with the dark night of the soul, which is so difficult because it's non-medical responder, it's not medically diagnosable, it's not easy to diagnose, it's not within the framework of psychology and psychiatry. So they will classify that as depression or fatigue. And they medicate you, of course, for life as part of the regimen of the medical regimen. Okay, so you see now that my experience in life had brought me to this expertise today that I can declare as my expertise, because I am really the designer of my healing modality called Be Well Science, which is the basis for my World Institute for Incurable Diseases to certify people who come to us, and we certify them to become professional healers, scientists in terms of healing approaches and systematic mentoring and coaching, so that we heal every aspect of life. Heal plan, heal every aspect of life. And this is what I have gifted humanity today, bringing a new way of systematizing how to transfer these healing practices to others so that I multiply my experience for 40 years. I want that before I die, I want to multiply myself. I want to transfer all my talents, my gifts, my wisdom, my skill sets to as many people as possible, so that this will continue even without me in the physical form. Okay? So that is why when I wake up in the morning, I'm looking towards doing it. When I sleep, I know that I've done my work for the day. I can die tomorrow and I'm fine. That makes me detached and dispassionate about my existence. So that's the time that you start to feel like you have found your purpose. Anyway, I'd like to also mention that there are many levels of healing expertise. When you say energy healing, there's many meanings to it. But there are really methods by which you can really start a good healing practice to be professional and not doubt yourself because you are just guessing. So, say somebody comes to you with a cancer, or say, I'm very imbalanced, I'm stuck. The first thing many people do is to unload, talk to me. Talk therapy, like tell me everything that you want to tell me, and I diffuse it. That is only to a certain level effective. After they upload it, they still have the cancer. They still have the lupus. They still have the diabetes. So feeling good is one level. To feel good because your cancer has gone away, or the side effect of chemotherapy is removed before it becomes really bad, that's another level of healing that is systematized by us in the Be Well Science modality, which I found. And so I can really say that it can be transferred to some people. You see, I have produced many miraculous healing. I've helped at least 3 children see from blindness. I've healed one lady in Peru who is the mother of the ambassador there, who has glaucoma and he cannot see anymore anything and no colors. After healing for 20 minutes in front of doctors who brought her, including her own doctor, he was able to see all the colors and describe the people. And that one is probably amazing to me, but it's my cup of tea, you know? So to me, it's like a normal thing. Now, I have also one lady in South Africa when I was teaching healing for HIV and AIDS, who came also blind in front of my students and all the people with HIV, because I was healing HIV there, and there's a lot of people watching, demonstrating my healing over on this lady. And again, in like our 10 or 12 minutes, he was able to see and describe people. So to me, it's like a divine grace that miracles do happen. It's not always 100% every day, but it does make a lot of difference if you know the system by which miracles do happen, which I can maybe talk in another video. If you want me to talk about this, you can just put a comment on this video, and we will talk about how miracles happen and sometimes they don't happen. Okay, so this is a normal thing. I have healed also children with holes in their heart, 3 at least, deaf children to hear. I've healed people who are paralyzed and comatose and brought back to life, and even came to our ashram, to our village in Asia, because he wants to demonstrate that he can walk 150 steps from a comatose level to broken bones from an accident, to be able to sit in a wheelchair, and then flew from Africa to the Philippines, and then from here rode for 8 hours to arrive in our village. And well, there's a lot of miracles because it's a very systematic way. And because of a system and methodical, we can transfer to people easily in 4 to 6 months to be certified. So I'm just giving you this example that I'm not doing a lot of this quackery or a lot of these claims. I had a lot of experience in doing this. That's why I told you I can measure how advanced a human soul and how old or young a soul is, or a master soul, by looking on the centers. Now, that is typical. Now, how do you measure a saint? How do you measure a more advanced sage or a higher guru? I will look at their soul. There's a chakra or centers in the soul beginning 1 foot or 12 inches above the head. That is the first chakra or soul energy. So once we can measure that, that will reflect how advanced the upper parts and the lower parts. Even below the perineum, there's another center for the upper and lower part of the soul. So we can measure that one. The person is seen as an advanced or not advanced, or if a person is not advanced, the light is almost like a point of light. If the person is advanced, it looks like a flame, like the apostles in Christianity, when they were receiving the Pentecostal fires, they had like a tongue of fire above their head. That is the center when awakening happens, when a person becomes a first initiate. Above mainstream humanity, above advanced mainstream humanity, there is a first initiate, a second initiate, and a third initiate, who is the saint. And the fourth initiate is the basic master and the more advanced masters and so on. So for Christians, just for you to understand, the best Christian teachings I've found is not in the historical religion of what happened then. It's about the examples of Jesus the Christ fulfilling the stages by which human development will follow. That's why he can say, I am the light, the way, and the truth. Nobody goes to the Father or the higher divine levels of perfection without passing through that path. So the birth of Jesus, the baptism of Jesus, okay, first and second initiation. The transfiguration and the mount is the third initiation. The fourth is the crucifixion. The fifth is the resurrection. And the sixth is the ascension, and then the Christhood. So that is the path by which humanity will perfect herself into the seventh initiation is called the Christhood. That's the path of the master and to a divine being. So that is why I see Christianity teachings has a certain advanced nomenclature of seeing the path and stairs and rung of development of human being until perfection. And in different religions, they don't have exactly that pathway for their avatars and prophets, but I can see also that this is the same pathway as Jesus did with other people. They just did it differently. Okay? So when I look at a saint, whether they're canonized or not canonized, it doesn't matter sometimes. I look at that center to be big. Like for example, a saint should have at least this size, 1 foot above the head. See, so that's how big. Masters will have bigger. So the lotus flower that symbolizes spirituality in Buddhism or Hinduism is that. So when your crown is open, that energy and the crown opens like a crown. Like the Pope has a mitre, the shamans have feathers, the Buddha has a hat with 1,000 eyes, and many symbols of Egyptian headdress, and many symbology on the crown. That's the spiritual center. The halos of the saints, the halos of the back of the head is the third eye halo, which is different from the top of the head. So when you look at this development, a Buddha or a more advanced wise master will already be sitting on the flower, not above the head. The being is higher than the lotus flower, meaning to say they already mastered the soul. That's why they're sitting on it. Okay? Now, there are more advanced centers of the soul. There are at least 3 more up and 3 more down. But I'm not going to talk today because it's not the subject matter. You can read it from my books. It's already drawn, and you can study them so that you have more information about spirituality in its entirety, not just a fraction of mysticism, fraction of the soul, The anatomy of the soul is also explained in my book, especially the third eye. Okay, so I'm giving you all the holistic approach to why I can read who's advanced and who is not advanced because of my experiences. I did not copy from a book. I did not take any other ideas to do this. This is a download from my own development and enlightenment, and these are my thesis to become a master. At the same, to be more enlightened, I have to bring them new teachings that are not written yet. That is the thesis of a master, to write books and new things that are not written yet, or if they were written, we include the wisdom of the past, because that's our masters in the past who wrote them or who taught them, and bring a new form of teachings that will transform the present humanity, and it will also be useful for far-fetched generations to come. That is why teaching should be continuous rather than silos. It should use the wisdom of the past that will be relevant in the future to transform the issues of humanity today, but it will be relevant for a long, long time in the future. Like the Bible has been relevant for thousands of years, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the Vedas of the Siddhas of Hinduism, the Tao Te Ching of Lao Tzu, and the teachings of Confucius and so on. So many teachings were embedded in society, not only to civilize society, to bring a new principle so that the people will not just learn emotional things, not only become an autopilot because of the internet and the social media and e-commerce. People are becoming autopilot in life. They do not think anymore because everything is, they ask the ChatGPT about questions, they go for series, they go for a lot of AI-generated answers, and that is good if you don't have the answers in your mind. So the problem is you will get bankrupt in your mind because you don't learn anymore because you're depending on the AI answers. So for me, I still consider myself not an old school, a universal boy in the universal school of life, because I have to learn from everything, including I have to learn AI technology, I have to learn the e-commerce, I have to learn branding, I have to learn marketing, sales, entrepreneurship, I have to learn how people think, I have to profile people, I have to profile situations, I have to help balance life of others, I have to use my intuition. So you have to see that you use all your facets and ferrets to be able to make sure that you are more holistic in approach to life rather than fanatical or biased. You can be a person who is like deep in your knowledge and expertise, like 1 kilometer deep, but you can also cover like only like 1 foot square diameter. So it's not good also. Or you can also be 1 kilometer wide and you have 1 centimeter deep. If you can be 1 kilometer wide and 1 kilometer deep, that is better. That's why we have to continue learning new skill sets. We have still to open up and learn many information from other schools. We have to collect knowledge that are more real and more truthful. We have to, the most difficult is how to delineate today and discern what is truth and what is not truth. Even the news, with fake news and real news. Same with AI-generated thing. We have the AI-generated information, and then we have also the scholars of the past's information. And what I have seen is the ancient texts and the ancient scriptures are still valid until today, even with the time of robotics and AI and supercomputers. Meaning to say this must have survived the test of times. And so they must be valid in many ways. So we still have to respect them, study them, and use what we need from them. You don't have to buy everything. You can just take what you need for your daily applications from different teachings, from different religion and philosophy, and then you will be more holistic in your approach than one silo knowledge. Okay, so now I can say that we have talked about the external expression of who is advanced and how do you measure it. The physical health can be measured. Your energetic can be increased with staying power to see who is more advanced in terms of longevity. You can also measure emotional maturity, and not only emotional quotient, but maturity and valor and strength, endurance, persistence, determination, and that ambition that comes from sustainable functional excellence. And then you need to also improve the mind, the concrete mind, and the abstract mind. And then you need to develop spiritual intelligence and hone them in such a way that you have also ESP, you have intuition, and you have wisdom. So all of these 5 levels of intelligence can be measured through talking to somebody, through answering questions and so on, or see their lives. Whoever serves more will always be more advanced, because the measurement really of development is through service. How valuable and impacting is your service? How many beneficiaries? How big is the light that will increase or explode when you help people? That is how you measure how big your service. The impact, how many beneficiaries, and how long will it affect them in a positive way. Because you can be serving by feeding the poor and doing a nonprofit, but then as you grow, you should not get stuck in the same nonprofit work. There are people who are needing a lot of your intelligence and your development and your wisdom, who are not the same 5 years ago when you're starting only the nonprofit and you were experimenting and you have the love to help people, the underserved. As you grow, you do not want anymore to just serve the same people because you have grown. You're looking for more advanced souls to stimulate, not just the poor in spirit, but the poor in consciousness, poverty in consciousness. So you have the external way of the measure, the refinement, the culture, the behavioral patterns, the character, not just the reputation, the character itself, and the functional excellence can be measured, can be looked at, which I probably to release that book soon, by September or before the end of October. Okay, another thing is the inner sense. If you have clairvoyance, you can see the aura of people who are advanced. They can see the color, you can see the chakras, or you can sense people who are advanced. You can feel them. You can feel their motive. You can feel their emotions. You can be empathic and feeling if they have bad intentions or not. You can sense also their goodness in their minds. You can look at their intentions, their goodwill, the will to good. You can also sense their power of presence, the power of impact. You can just feel their goodness by their auric field. That's the second way of testing. The third one is the more advanced, esoteric testing. The one I just told you, you can scan the soul, you can scan the chakras, you can scan even the kundalini or the sacred fire, how evolved the fire. The more advanced human being, the fire is more active and more robust, and the colors are more dense, they are more compact, they are more able to go upward, like the kundalini or the caduceus or the doctor. The medicine is symbol of that energy. So that inner fire should be on fire. So the staying power of a saint or a master is not just about their long life genetics. It's not just about their food. It's about how strong is the fire that's keep on burning. As long as the fire is burning, you stay alive. When that person decreases the fire, like especially in your navel and sex, when that decreases in a person, they're already fading away. It's a decline. Okay? But remember, everything in life has always an end. So even the masters, the saints, the so-called immortals, they will have an end because their purpose is already finished. They graduated. So for as long as you have a purpose, for as long as you have a mission in life, life goes on, and you don't have to think of dying tomorrow or dying next year. You keep on going every day. Whatever you do every day, even without being paid, without being pumped, a tap on your shoulder, without accolades, you will still do it because you know it's the right thing. It's the greatest expression of your potential and your heart, your mind, your soul, and your powers and talents. So remember that one. Service is the barometer of inner development. Service also is the muscle building of virtues and values in life. It's the measurement of how functionally excellent you are, and also preceding that is your excellence. Then you have functional excellence, and you have fulfillment because of that excellence. And then you go to the path of self-mastery called the enlightened path, where you achieve eventually the enlightenment according to your incarnation purpose. So I wish I've given you today all of this talk, and don't be discouraged that this is so much to digest. You have all my books to study if you want. We have a lot of workshops to offer to you, and make sure the third eye initiation is part of your curriculum that you'll get. It's not just being a vegetarian, it's not being nice, it's not being sweet, it's not being like protector of the animals and so on. You have to have a curriculum. You become an engineer, you become an accountant, you become an engineer by having a curriculum and modules and chapters of your book. To do that also, you have to have a curriculum for the science of enlightenment, the science and art of enlightenment, the science of self-mastery, the science of development, and the science of self-care to take care of your health. So I'd like to summarize that you can measure your advancement as a soul, whether you're a young soul, advanced soul, an old soul, or a master soul. And also you can measure how advanced you are by looking on your centers, your levels of your auras, your soul centers, and also your service and your character. Good luck to everyone. I hope to see you soon again in the next episode of having to discuss many details of spiritual psychology, divine alchemy, even sexual alchemy, to learn the powers of the sexual energy to get enlightened and to have divine intimacy experiences. And hopefully that you will learn, grow, and serve. Namaskar.